So if you were like stranded on a desert island, right, the very first thing you'd look for is water.
Oh, absolutely. Pure survival instinct.
Right. But in our modern world, we don't look for water. We look for a direct deposit notification.
Yeah, that ping on your phone.
Exactly. I mean, from a really young age, we're basically taught that this twice-a-month digital transaction is the absolute baseline of our security, like physical and psychological security.
It becomes our oxygen.
It totally is the oxygen. And because we treat it like that, we spend our entire lives just, swimming around in the shallows.
Right, because you can't go too deep.
Yeah, think of it like scuba diving, but you're strapped to this incredibly restrictive, super low-capacity oxygen tank.
That is a terrifying image, honestly.
Right. I mean, you can swim around a bit, maybe observe a few nice fish, look at some coral.
Take a vacation once a year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you remain perpetually tethered to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
You can never dive into the deep ocean. You can never really explore the Mariana Trench of your own potential because you're just constantly on a countdown to your next breath.
And that next breath is the paycheck.
It's the paycheck. But today, we are taking that tank off.
I love that.
We are digging into excerpts from Chapter 1 of the book, Beyond the Paycheck, The Path to Financial Ownership. And our mission for this deep dive is to fundamentally deconstruct your relationship with money.
Which is so needed right now.
Completely. We're challenging that lifelong conditioning that says, a bigger salary just automatically equals financial freedom. And we are mapping the exact escape route from what the source text actually calls the paycheck prison. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Because this material, it doesn't just offer those surface-level budgeting tips. It really deconstructs the psychological and structural mechanics of how we think about, earning our right to exist.
Yeah, I mean, the architecture of our financial lives is what we're really examining today, rather than just, rearranging the wallpaper in a burning house.
Rearranging the wallpaper, that's exactly what budgeting usually feels like.
Right. The sources we're exploring, they really challenge the foundational survival mechanisms that you were taught in school and, by society at large.
Yeah, the stuff we just absorb without questioning.
Exactly. We absorb this really comforting illusion. It's almost like a collective hallucination, really. This idea that just working harder and earning more money will eventually, somehow, generate this spontaneous state of financial security.
Like it'll just magically appear one day.
Yeah, and the text completely dismantles that. It forces a shift from just staring at the amount of money flowing into your bank account to actually analyzing the hydrodynamic structure of how that money is routed. Like, is it captured or is it lost the second it arrives?
And that strikes right at the heart of the first major illusion the text targets, right? The myth of the income problem.
Yes. This is a massive paradigm shift.
It really is. The source material states unequivocally that most people believe they have an income problem, when in reality they have a system problem.
Which completely changes the physics of personal finance.
It changes everything.
Yes.
Just that distinction alone. Because if you think you have an income problem, you act a certain way.
Right. It shifts your entire variable of focus. Like, if you view your financial struggle strictly as an income problem, the only logical solution your brain comes up with is to increase the top-line revenue.
So you work more hours.
Exactly. You demand a raise, you pick up a side hustle, you get a second job.
Which just makes you more exhausted.
Yeah. But if you realize you actually have a system problem, you start looking at the structural failure in how you retain wealth.
The text actually defines this system as the mechanical pathway money takes through your life, doesn't it?
It does. And what's fascinating here is how society constantly conflates a high income with high freedom.
Oh, all the time.
We see someone pulling in, say, $500,000 a year, and we just assume they possess total autonomy.
Right, we see the nice car and assume they're free.
But the text argues this assumption is mathematically false. I mean, if your income stops the exact moment you stop working, you don't actually own your income.
Your income owns you.
Exactly. It owns you.
The litmus test the author provides for this is brutal. I mean, it is incredibly clarifying, but it's tough to swallow.
It really forces you to face reality.
It essentially asks you to freeze time. Like, if you cannot step away from your labor for a month without your entire financial infrastructure collapsing, you are not financially free.
You're in a state of financial dependence.
Right. But hold on. Let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Sure.
If someone is working 3 minimum wage jobs just to keep the lights on and feed their kids, telling them they, quote, just have a system problem, doesn't that border on insulting?
I can see how it sounds that way, yeah.
It feels like it ignores the sheer mathematical reality of poverty,
That's a totally fair pushback, and the text actually addresses this directly. It makes a clear distinction between basic survival and wealth creation.
Okay, so it's not saying income doesn't matter at all.
No, not at all. The source isn't claiming that income is irrelevant, and it's definitely not dismissing the severe, grinding friction of poverty. What it's isolating is the actual mechanism of freedom.
The mechanism. Okay, unpack that.
Well, merely raising the income of a fundamentally flawed financial system, it just scales up the velocity of the money flowing out.
Ah, I see.
Think about it like operating a leaky pneumatic pump. If you pump faster and push way more water through it, that doesn't fix the pressure leak.
Right? It just sprays the water out with way greater force all over the room.
Exactly. The author is pointing out that until the system, meaning the structural sequence of how money is allocated to assets versus liabilities, until that is repaired, the size of the inflow only masks the underlying dependency.
It delays the collapse.
Yes, it delays it, but it mathematically does not prevent it.
Man, I want you, the listener, to run this diagnostic on your own life right now. Just imagine you simply stop going to work for the next 30 days.
Just cold turkey.
Yeah. What is the immediate physiological and financial response in your life? Do the credit card companies start initiating collections?
Do the calls start coming in?
Right. Does the mortgage go into arrears? If the answer is yes, then according to this text, the core structural dependency is exactly the same, whether you earn $40,000 a year or $400,000 a year.
The math is identical.
The timeline of the collapse might vary a little bit, but the inevitability of it does not. You are strapped to the exact same oxygen tank.
And, the psychological relief of this realization, once you get past the shock, is that it removes the moral failing we so often attach to our paychecks.
Oh, that's a huge point.
When you recognize the issue is actually systemic, you stop viewing your employer as the sole arbiter of your financial salvation.
You stop living in that state of constant anxiety.
Right, that perpetual anxiety where you believe a, 5% annual raise is the singular key to getting some breathing room.
Because as the text reveals, the raise doesn't alter the dependency at all.
Not one bit.
Which really forces us to examine the origins of this dependency. Like, how did entire generations of really intelligent, hardworking people get locked into a system that practically guarantees perpetual labor?
It's crazy when you step back and look at it.
We got locked in because we are all reading from a script that was handed to us, and we literally never stopped to check if the script still made sense.
The text calls this the broken 40-year script.
Yes, and the treadmill of hard work. And I should note, the text is very careful to maintain that hard work is an honorable trait.
It's not anti-hard work.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But it makes this sharp, sharp distinction. Hard work applied to a broken mechanism is just a treadmill.
You're just sweating for no reason.
Right. You are generating immense kinetic energy. You're exhausted. You're putting in the hours. But you possess zero forward momentum.
We really have to trace the historical lineage of the script to understand why it's so deeply embedded in our collective psyche.
Where did it even come from?
Well, the text outlines that classic childhood directive everyone knows. Study hard, get good grades, secure a stable job, work for 40 uninterrupted years, and then retire.
If you're lucky.
Exactly. And the crucial context here is that for previous generations, this wasn't a myth, it wasn't a scam. It was an active, functioning social contract.
It actually worked?
It did. During the mid-20th century, this specific sequence yielded actual stability. Corporations offered defined benefit pensions. Long-term loyalty was reciprocated with lifetime employment.
You get the gold watch at the end.
Yeah, and the ratio of median wages to the cost of living it actually allowed for the steady, predictable accumulation of savings.
But applying that mid-20th century script to the modern economy, it's like trying to navigate a modern, rapidly expanding metropolis using a paper map printed in 1980.
That's a perfect analogy.
Like, you can pedal your bicycle with incredible discipline. You can have an unmatched work ethic.
But the map is wrong.
The physical landscape has fundamentally changed. Entire highways have been demolished, zoning has shifted, and the destination you were trying to reach has been relocated entirely.
The map itself is literally leading you over a cliff.
Right. So the modern economy dismantled that 40-year social contract. And the source material isolates three primary disruptors that caused this.
Yeah, the first one being technological acceleration.
Which is everywhere now.
It is. Whole sectors of the economy can be rendered completely obsolete or just entirely reorganized by a single software update or, a shift in artificial intelligence
It's just vaporizing what we used to call job security.
overnight. Then second, you have the normalization of sudden corporate restructuring.
The endless layoffs.
Right. Companies no longer view labor as a long-term fixed asset. Labor is now treated as a highly liquid variable cost, and it's constantly minimized to satisfy quarterly shareholder demands.
It's just a line item on a spreadsheet.
Exactly. But the third disruptor the text highlights is arguably the most insidious of all.
Inflation. The author describes inflation so beautifully. They call it something that quietly reduces the purchasing power of your paycheck. It is an invisible thief.
And to really understand the mechanics of this, we have to look at how inflation acts as a hidden tax on fiat currency.
Right. Because it's not just things getting more expensive.
No, inflation isn't just a phenomenon where store owners arbitrarily decide to charge more money. It is the currency itself losing its density, its stored energy.
Okay, break that down for us.
So when the money supply expands faster than economic output, every single dollar you physically hold represents a smaller fraction of the total economic pie.
It's diluted.
Exactly. So if you are trading your finite time for a currency that is continuously engineered to lose value, you are running on a treadmill that is slowly increasing its incline.
While the speed remains exactly the same.
Right. You literally have to work harder next year just to buy the exact same standard of living you had this year.
That is so depressing when you think about it.
It is. Therefore, relying solely on a static paycheck in an inflationary environment, it's a mathematically guaranteed path to losing ground.
Wow. Okay, so if the paper map is broken, and if job security is effectively just a statistical myth in the modern era, what is the new map?
The text provides a singular, definitive answer to replace that old script.
Ownership.
Ownership, yes. The source creates this incredibly stark dichotomy between employment and ownership.
Right. Employment yields income, but ownership yields leverage.
And leverage is the key word here.
Let's unpack the mechanics of leverage, actually, because that is a word that gets thrown around constantly in finance spaces, but the text uses it very specifically regarding time, doesn't it?
It does. It looks at the bottleneck of employment, which is the physical limitation of the human body and the temporal limitation of the day.
We all only have 24 hours.
Right. If you earn $50 an hour, your absolute maximum earning potential is hard capped by the 24 hours in a day, minus the time you require for sleep and, eating.
There's a literal physical ceiling on your output. You cannot work 25 hours a day.
Exactly. So leverage, as defined by this text, is the deliberate severing of the link between your time and your money.
Severing the link. That is powerful.
Because assets possess no temporal boundaries.
Right. They don't sleep.
They don't. An equity index fund or a piece of commercial real estate or proprietary software, it does not require 8 hours of sleep. It does not take sick leave.
It doesn't ask for PTO.
Right. It operates and it compounds value continuously, 24 hours a day, completely irrespective of your physical exertion.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the text is advocating for a profound psychological metamorphosis here.
It really is. It's an identity shift.
It requires you to stop viewing yourself as a laborer, someone whose primary economic function is just the execution of tasks for an hourly or salaried wage.
You have to shed that identity.
And you have to start viewing yourself as an architect. You are designing and acquiring systems that execute the heavy lifting on your behalf.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, I love this part.
The source asserts that acquiring these assets is no longer just some aggressive wealth-building strategy for the super ambitious.
Right. It's not just for Wall Street guys.
It is the only true form of baseline financial security left in existence.
Let that sink in. The only form.
Yes. If the social contract of job security is void, which it is, then asset security is literally the only parachute available.
But of course, transitioning from theory to practice is where most people hit a massive wall.
Oh, absolutely. The friction is real.
It is incredibly easy for us to sit here and say, stop trading time for money and go own things. But the immediate internal pushback from the listener is almost always going to be, I don't have enough money to buy assets.
And the author entirely anticipates that exact defense mechanism.
They saw it coming a mile away.
They did. To dismantle it, the text presents a really compelling case study. It calls it The Tale of Two Salaries.
I love this section.
It's brilliant because it's designed to prove that ownership is fundamentally a behavioral protocol. It is not an income-level privilege.
Okay, so it isolates the variable of income.
Exactly. It presents two individuals who earn the exact same completely average salary.
So no one has a mathematical advantage here.
None. So we have person A, who the text calls the consumer.
And the text provides a highly accurate psychological profile of this behavior. I mean, it's almost uncomfortable to read because it's so recognizable.
It hits very close to home for a lot of people.
When their direct deposit hits, the immediate reflex is outward distribution.
Get the money out the door.
Yeah. They finance a larger television. They upgrade their smartphone to the absolute latest model on a, 36-month payment plan. They lease a luxury vehicle because it signals status.
They absorb the cost of designer clothing, constant restaurant dinners, expensive weekend entertainment.
And by the time the next direct deposit is scheduled, their capital reserves are sitting at absolute zero.
They have effectively traded a month of their finite, unrecoverable life for depreciating consumer goods.
It's tragic when you frame it like that. So that's person A. Then we examine person B, the owner.
Right. And remember, they operate under the exact same macroeconomic conditions,
Same inflation, same job market.
same gross income, but their behavioral algorithm is totally inverted.
How so?
The text notes that they save consistently, they automate their investments so they don't even have to think about it, and most critically, they purchase assets before they allocate any capital to luxuries.
Okay, so fast forward 10 years in this case study.
The text observes that these two lives are now traversing entirely different stratospheres of freedom.
Stratospheres. I mean, person A is highly stressed, perpetually dependent on the next paycheck just to service the debt on the depreciating goods they bought 5 years ago.
While person B has a portfolio that generates its own internal gravity and its own income.
And what's fascinating is that person B didn't necessarily work any harder in their day job.
Nope. They didn't put in more overtime than person A,
They simply routed their capital through a different system.
which completely obliterates what the text calls the most pervasive financial lie we tell ourselves.
Oh, I know exactly which lie you're talking about. I would invest if I earned more money.
That's the one. That lie is a protective cognitive dissonance.
It protects our ego.
Exactly. We convince ourselves that our lack of wealth is just a math problem when it's actually a deeply ingrained behavioral problem.
The text posits that money is merely a magnifying glass, right? It just magnifies existing habits.
That's it exactly. If a person lacks the neurological discipline to manage $1,000, handing them $10,000 will not spontaneously generate discipline.
No, of course not.
It will simply fund a much more catastrophic level of consumption. The behavioral pathways of spending versus accumulating, they're built entirely independently of the actual amount of capital flowing through them.
Right. Think of it like fluid dynamics.
Okay, I like where this is going.
If you have a pipe that routes water directly into the drain, increasing the water pressure doesn't fill your reservoir.
Not at all.
It just blasts the water into the sewer at a way higher velocity.
That's exactly what happens.
Giving a higher salary to someone trapped in a consumer mindset is literally just turning up the pressure on a pipe pointed at the drain.
The money leaves their life faster.
And it often drags them into deeper debt. Because think about it. Higher incomes qualify you for higher credit limits.
Oh, the banks are more than happy to lend you more if you make more.
Exactly. The lack of directional control is the real issue here, not the volume of the water.
Which perfectly transitions into the structural reality of what actually happens when that water pressure increases in everyday life.
Right, when you actually get the raise.
The text asks us to examine the direct behavioral response to receiving a raise or a huge bonus.
The source diagnoses this phenomenon as lifestyle inflation.
It's so common it has its own clinical-sounding name.
Let's say you get a 20% raise tomorrow. For the vast majority of the population, that newly acquired capital never even makes it to the balance sheet.
It vanishes.
It is immediately absorbed by lifestyle upgrades. The perfectly fine apartment is swapped for a larger square footage with nicer amenities.
The perfectly functional car is traded in for a newer model with a much higher monthly obligation.
The grocery habits shift from practical to totally premium. The text calls this spending disguised as success.
And we really have to look at the behavioral economics of that phrase, spending disguised as success, to understand why it's so incredibly difficult to resist.
Why do we do it? Why do we instantly upgrade everything?
Evolutionary psychology plays a massive role here, actually.
Really? How so?
Well, in tribal environments, visible status signaled your access to resources. And that directly correlated to survival and mating opportunities.
Ah, so it's hardwired.
It is. Today, our brains are running that exact same ancient software, but we're in a modern capitalist environment. We measure wealth by visible liabilities because that is literally the only data available to our visual cortex.
Oh, wow. That makes so much sense. You cannot see the balance of a stranger's Vanguard index fund as they walk past you on the street.
You have no idea what their net worth is.
But you can instantly process the logo on their jacket or the badge on their car.
Exactly. We inflate our lifestyles to signal evolutionary fitness to our peers.
So we are essentially buying props to convince other people we aren't terrified of the future.
That's a very blunt way to put it, but yes.
But the financial consequence of this signaling is devastating because every single increase in income is matched by a proportional increase in fixed expenses.
So the baseline financial stress never actually dissipates.
Never. You might be making twice as much money as you did 5 years ago, but your break-even point has moved right alongside it.
The author uses a terrifying metaphor for this state of being.
What was it?
You don't escape the prison, you simply move into a larger cell.
A larger cell. Man, that gives me chills.
The mechanics of this larger cell are super insidious because the bars are gilded.
Right. The mattress is memory foam, the food is gourmet.
But the structural confinement is identical. You are still completely trapped by the absolute requirement to continue trading your finite time to pay for the maintenance of that upgraded lifestyle.
You haven't purchased freedom at all.
No, you have merely financed a much more expensive set of obligations.
The text issues a very clear warning here. A bigger paycheck does not automatically synthesize wealth.
It synthesizes opportunity.
Exactly. The conversion of that opportunity into true wealth is entirely dependent on your behavioral filter.
So what does this all mean for the listener who actually wants to, enjoy their life?
I can hear the friction right now from the audience. Is the text demanding complete asceticism?
Right, like are we supposed to live in an empty room and hoard our cash?
Yeah, eat rice and beans, never experience the joy of a nice vacation or a great cup of coffee. Is the ultimate goal of life just to be the richest corpse in the graveyard?
That's the extreme pushback, but no. The text specifically avoids advocating for blind deprivation.
Thank goodness.
The crucial differentiator here is sequence. Recall person B in the source materials example.
The owner.
Right. The text does not say person B never purchases luxuries.
It states they purchase assets before luxury.
Exactly. It is an algorithmic sequence. The raw sweat of your direct labor should not be used to fund depreciating liabilities.
Okay, wait, say that again. That's huge.
Your labor funds the asset, and then the asset's yield funds the luxury.
Wow. Okay, so when you use the principle of your labor to buy a luxury car,
You have destroyed the capital. It's gone.
but when you use the dividend of your investments to lease the car,
The underlying capital remains perfectly intact and continues to work for you.
that is such a subtle but massive difference. And to ensure you are executing that sequence correctly, the text provides what it calls the ultimate filter used by the wealthy.
This is such a great tool.
It's a single binary question that should precede every single significant allocation of capital. Will this purchase make me richer or poorer?
It's so simple.
The text argues that this simple question is a cognitive wedge that breaks the habitual loop of consumerism.
The efficacy of that richer or poorer filter lies in its sheer objectivity.
It cuts through the noise.
It really does. It strips away all the marketing narratives, the ego, the status anxiety, and all those little emotional rationalizations we do.
Like when you stand in front of a brand new car at a dealership.
Oh, yeah. The marketing tells you it will make you happy, powerful, and respected.
But the filter forces you to look at the mathematics. The exact moment those tires touch the public road, the asset depreciates by 10 to 20%.
Mathematically, it makes you poorer.
Right. Conversely, allocating that exact same capital into a cash-flowing rental property or a diversified portfolio mathematically increases your net worth and your future cash flow,
It makes you richer. It completely recalibrates your perception of utility.
which feeds directly into the most powerful analogy in the entire text. I love this part. The author asks you to stop viewing your money as just this passive medium of exchange.
Right, it's not just paper.
And to start viewing every single dollar as an employee.
Yes, think about the hierarchical structure of a corporation.
The text suggests that when you buy an income-producing asset, you have effectively hired a manager.
And that manager works around the clock to accrue more dollars.
Yes. Eventually, your investments are producing enough secondary income to acquire tertiary investments, entirely independent of your initial paycheck.
At that inflection point, your money has become a self-replicating workforce.
The source is totally uncompromising on this standard of capital deployment, too.
Every single dollar must have a job description.
Every dollar. The text points out that idle capital is decaying capital.
Primarily due to the inflation mechanics we discussed earlier.
Right, the invisible thief. So dollars sitting in a zero-interest checking account are essentially employees sleeping under their desks while the building is on fire.
That's a great visual. And dollars deployed to purchase excessive liabilities are even worse.
Because they are saboteurs. They are actively destroying your balance sheet.
The text actually critiques the modern education system pretty hard for its failure to teach this concept.
Oh, it roasts the education system.
It points out that we are rigorously trained for 2 whole decades on the mechanics of earning an income.
But almost entirely uneducated on the mechanics of retaining and multiplying it.
Exactly. Earning is just addition. Investing is multiplication.
I want you to run a mental audit right now listening to this. Think about the last 5 times you swipe your debit or credit card. Look at those exact transactions through the lens of a CEO hiring staff.
Did you deploy capital to hire a highly competent employee who is going out into the market to capture more value for your holding company?
Or did you hire a saboteur who is going to continually drain your resources through maintenance costs, huge depreciation, and terrible interest payments?
And to operate as an effective CEO of your capital, to actually possess the cognitive bandwidth to make these strategic hiring decisions, you require operational space.
You can't be panicked all the time.
No, you cannot optimize a corporate balance sheet if you are in a perpetual state of existential panic about making Friday's payroll.
Which is where the text introduces the critical concept of margin.
Margin is everything.
It really is. Margin is simply the gap between what you bring in and what you send out.
Right.
The text argues that the paycheck cycle is incredibly toxic precisely because it annihilates margin.
It shrinks it to zero.
When you are living month to month, you are in a purely reactive survival state.
The text maps this psychological cascade perfectly, I think.
Yeah.
Without margin, urgency replaces planning. Fear replaces opportunity. Stress replaces strategy.
You're no longer playing chess. You're just dodging falling rocks.
Exactly. And the source redefines financial freedom mathematically through this concept of margin.
It creates a total paradigm shift in how we evaluate success.
It really does. Because the text provides the example of a highly leveraged millionaire.
Right, someone earning $1 million a year.
But they are carrying massive mortgages, exotic car leases, and private school tuition that consumes $990,000 of that income.
So they have a massive top line, but effectively zero margin.
They are literally one market downturn or one missed bonus away from total insolvency.
Just a house of cards. Compare that to the other example it gives. A public school teacher earning $60,000 a year.
But they live on $40,000.
They have zero toxic debt, and they invest the $20,000 margin.
The teacher is undeniably, mathematically, and psychologically more free than the millionaire.
That completely shatters the illusion of the gilded cage.
It proves that the millionaire just has the illusion of wealth, but the teacher possesses actual autonomy.
Freedom is synthesized in the gap.
Yes, and the psychological benefits of that gap are exponential.
Well, how so? Like day to day.
The text describes how margin fundamentally alters human interaction and decision-making. Like, if you possess a 6-month emergency fund, which is essentially just stored margin, how does that alter your posture in a salary negotiation?
Oh, it changes everything.
Right. A person living paycheck to paycheck negotiates from a position of desperate necessity.
They must accept whatever terms are offered, because the alternative is complete ruin.
But the person with margin, they can walk away.
And that ability to walk away transfers the leverage straight from the employer to the employee.
Margin grants you the psychological fortitude to decline toxic work environments.
To take calculated entrepreneurial risks.
Exactly. And to optimize for long-term compounding rather than just short-term survival.
But protecting that margin requires an immense amount of social friction.
Oh, people don't like it when you change the rules.
The text is very clear about the resistance you will face. When you decide to step off the treadmill of lifestyle inflation, society will push back hard.
Your peers will question why you're driving a 7-year-old Toyota when you just got a massive promotion.
They'll think you're crazy. But the text's advice here is incredibly blunt. You do not need their permission.
You do not need validation from people who are themselves trapped in the paycheck prison.
That is so freeing.
This raises an important question, though, about the herd mentality of personal finance.
Yeah, we follow the herd.
We constantly outsource our financial bravery to the anxieties of our peer group.
Hmm.
If everyone in your social strata normalizes, carrying high-interest credit card debt just to fund European vacations,
Then choosing to aggressively invest that capital instead will look culturally abnormal.
it will. But the text states that escaping the system requires acknowledging that the system's normal outcomes are exactly what you're trying to avoid.
You don't want to be normal if normal is broke.
Right. It all distills down to discipline. Discipline is the overriding variable here.
It is the conscious decision to prioritize your future autonomy over your present status signaling.
And once you have that discipline and you've established the margin, the source material instructs us to lock in this new architecture.
By fundamentally altering our internal vocabulary.
Yes, we have to start asking better questions.
The text asserts that the quality of your life is dictated by the quality of the questions you consistently ask yourself.
The questions of the consumer, the person trapped in the system, are entirely focused on acquisition and immediate utility.
How can I earn more?
What can I buy with it?
How much is the monthly payment?
Those questions assume the capital will be destroyed. They merely debate how it will be destroyed.
The text instructs us to overwrite this programming with the questions of an owner.
How can I own more?
What system can I build?
Will this allocation of capital generate future passive income?
By simply shifting the verb from buy to build, you are physically rewiring the neural pathways of how you interact with the physical world.
You stop walking down a commercial street looking for things to consume.
And you start analyzing it as a matrix of commercial real estate, supply chains, and equity structures that you could potentially acquire a stake in.
It changes how you see reality. And in its concluding arguments, the text demonstrates a really profound pragmatism.
It's not reckless at all.
No, it doesn't demonize the paycheck. It doesn't suggest that wage labor is inherently evil or that you should, recklessly abandon your job tomorrow to start a company with zero capital.
Right. It just reframes the purpose of the paycheck.
The text states, respect the paycheck, protect it, but understand it is the fuel, not the destination.
The paycheck is the fuel that powers the asset engine.
Exactly.
You use the steady, predictable income of your job to meticulously acquire and assemble the parts of your ownership machine.
You are running two parallel systems until the new one can sustain you.
Income pays the immediate baseline bills, but the surplus, the margin, is the raw material used to build the assets.
And those assets slowly begin to generate wealth. And that wealth ultimately generates the choices that constitute true freedom.
It is a transition achieved not through lottery tickets or risky speculation.
No, it's through thousands of micro decisions executed with consistent discipline over time.
Okay, let's pull all these threads together because the ground we've covered today is a complete paradigm shift.
It really is a lot to take in.
The mission was to deconstruct your relationship with money. And if you've absorbed the mechanics of this source material, the old paper map has been entirely shredded.
It's gone.
You now understand that a high income without a retention system is just a high-speed treadmill.
You understand that job security in an era of technological disruption and inflation is a mathematical illusion.
And that asset security is the only viable replacement.
You've seen how lifestyle inflation creates a gilded cage.
And you recognize that margin, that critical gap between earning and spending, is the actual birthplace of human freedom.
And, this deconstruction is merely the foundational stage.
Are we just getting started?
Right. The source material ends by pointing toward the execution phase, now that the psychological dependency on the paycheck has been severed.
And the mandate to deploy every dollar as a productive employee has been established.
The subsequent chapters promise to detail the exact tactical mechanics of how to build those asset systems.
We have defined the architecture of freedom. The next step is pouring the concrete.
That's going to be a fun one to dive into.
I cannot wait to get into the tactical execution of that. But before we sign off, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to synthesize everything we've analyzed today.
A parting gift.
Exactly. The source material told us that your money should be treated as an employee, right?
Right.
It should report to work, execute its job, and capture value. But let's apply a deeper level of corporate governance to this analogy.
Okay, let's hear it.
Think about what happens in the real world when a company is poorly run by its executive team.
It's a disaster.
Right. When human employees are neglected, given contradictory instructions, or kept in stagnant, oppressive conditions, what do?
They unionize. They quit. Or they go on strike.
Exactly. The company collapses from the inside out.
Yeah.
So if you are the CEO of your money, what kind of corporate culture have you engineered for your dollars?
Oh, that is a fantastic question.
Are you a micromanaging, terrified boss, hoarding your employees in a zero-interest savings account, where the slow suffocation of inflation just drains their energy and morale until they are worthless?
Sleeping at their desks.
Or are you a visionary leader? Are you deploying your capital into the field, moving them into innovative, growing assets, giving them the space and the structure to thrive, compound, and multiply?
The way you manage your financial workforce is the ultimate reflection of how much you genuinely value your own future autonomy.
You aren't just an employee anymore. You have the margin. You have the filter. You are the CEO now. Run the company.
Run the company.
Take off that tiny restrictive scuba tank, build your asset engine, and finally go explore the deep ocean. We'll see you on the next deep dive.